The great movie reporters mirror the great reporters in real life. They're curious, they're passionate, they'll do anything to get that story. They'll fight any obstacles to get the story and be first.
Listen, Gertie, this is a newspaper. We go to fires here.
They're smart, they're skeptical, they're curious. They tend to be very funny.
Take Hitler and stick him on the funny page.
They're very sarcastic. They have a point of view that everybody is terrible, and they make very funny jokes about that.
You're inclined to be a trifle sarcastic, which is not good for the organization.
Are you asking for my resignation?
No, my boy. Don't be hasty.
They can be very principled. They have their own moral code.
I want to get the job. That's the idea. And to get the job, I'll stick a knife in anybody I have to.
The journalist is the perfect character for film because they're asking questions all the time. They really represent the audience. They want to know everything the audience wants to know. Ironically, most of the films about journalists, especially in the 30s and the 40s, were written by newspaper people. They quit their jobs as newspaper people and became film writers because it was much more money, much more lucrative profession.
I know newspapers backward, forward, and sideways. I can write them, edit them, print them, wrap them, and sell them.
Don't need anybody right now.
I can handle big news and little news. And if there's no news, I'll go out and bite a dog.
The dialogue in most newspaper films is fantastic. It's funny, it's clever. The conversation is a very high level because they're wordsmiths.
When you're crawling up fire escapes, getting kicked out of front doors, eating Christmas dinners at one-armed joints, don't forget your old pal, Hildy Johnson. As the road beyond unfolds.
Everybody talks about the front page, which was the original, but His Girl Friday is much better. It's much better written.
Hello. Hurry up, this is important. Give me the desk.
Flash, Earl Williams just escaped.
I mean, you see with Hildy Johnson in His Girl Friday, even from when she first strides in that insane and amazing outfit.
What do you want?
Your ex-wife is here. Do you want to see her?
One of the great things about His Girl Friday is they speak so fast.
Mrs. William Rice, age 55, scrub lady, while scrubbing the 8th floor of the Commerce Building, was shot in the left leg by one of Sheriff Hartwell's deputies. There goes another scrub lady.
The director told them, speak as fast as you can. So they're constantly throwing out these great lines, these witty lines, these clever lines, the lines where they're sparring at each other.
I made a great reporter out of you, Hildy, but you won't be half as good on any other paper, and you know it. We're a team, that's what we are. You need me, and I need you, and the paper needs both of us.
American.
And the fact that they're husband and wife, or former husband and wife, makes it even more funny than it is in the front page, where it's just two men going at each other.
When I'm surrounded with my back against the wall, you're not going to lay down on me.
I'm going to lay down on you and spit in your eye, you murderer.
Most newsrooms, people didn't yell much, but in film, they're always yelling. The editor's yelling.
What the devil have you been doing to my column?
Do you know what time picture layouts must be ready?
All right, try him again.
The reporters are yelling. They're yelling at each other. There's a lot of activity going on in the newsroom. It's a very busy place. In real life, that was also true, but not so exaggerated.
Boner, you call yourself a newspaper man. Where's your nose?
My nose?
Yes, your nose, where that thing fairly reeks of alcohol.
So whether it's the meeting in the credit sequence of Network, where they're laying out what's going to go for 1 minute and 40 seconds and what exact chunk of the show that night, or a headline meeting, or people bustling about and trying to crack some mystery.
We're 2 hours away from the deadline. Have you got enough to go with now?
Yes, I've got murder, John.
I always love those scenes. They're just fun. You get to see different types of newsrooms at work, and I think they frequently serve in films as a way to introduce the audience to this world that has different rules.
Come on, Tatum. How much for them knows the story? Exclusive.
What do you think I got here, a plane crash or a set of quadruplets? This is a circulation builder.
It helps establish the journalist universe.
War correspondents in films are generally heroes. The biggest heroes, the best heroes. Why? Because they're risking their lives to get information back to the public.
Get the shot?
Yes!
But basically, the war correspondent, if you're making a list of the top heroes in journalism, would be at the top of the list.
All that noise you hear isn't static. It's death coming to London. Yes, they're coming here now. You can hear the bombs falling on the streets and the homes. Don't tune me out. Hang on a while. This is a big story, and you're part of it.
Yes, she blows.
The editors in the movies are very gruff, and they haven't changed much since the 1930s.
Say, listen, put Nancy's picture all over the page. Yeah, the one taken in prison. What? Well, then paint bars on it.
the craggy managing editor remains the craggy managing editor.
All right, I'm crazy, but it's only because I took a chance on you.
When they look at the opposition newspaper and they see, oh my God, they have a story we don't have, they get furious.
I don't like to have my wire service beaten by every other one in the country.
If you look at All the President's Men, Jason Robards, who plays Ben Bradley, he gets furious.
God damn it, when is somebody gonna go on the record in this story?
I'm always amazed by those scenes because in order to make a scene like that a key part of the dramatic stakes of a movie, you have to have gotten the entire audience invested in the rules of journalism.
I don't believe the story. Doesn't make sense.
How do they know it's true? How, have they verified it? Have they gotten that last confirming source? But the scene in the third act of the movie where everybody is waiting with bated breath to see whether the story is a go. I love that film has the power to make those journalistic stakes real to people who don't live it every day.
Nothing's riding on this except the First Amendment of the Constitution, freedom of the press, and maybe the future of the country. Not that any of that matters. But if you guys fuck up again, I'm going to get mad.
Gentlemen of the press.
The female reporter is very interesting in film because on one hand, it's one of the few professions where the female reporter is equal to the male reporter. Does everything the male reporter can do and does it better.
I like knowing more about what goes on than most people.
And telling him.
Yeah, and telling him.
Woman of the Year is an interesting character because she's self-sufficient. She's fantastic. She's at the height of her profession. She's known by world leaders. She falls in love with a sports writer. And suddenly the sports writer doesn't like the fact that she's always working, she's always on.
I'll be with you in 2 minutes. I just have one paragraph to finish.
This very responsible, brilliant woman is reduced to making toast and she can't work in the kitchen. The audience loves this because she can't do what every woman in the audience can do. And of course, they can't do what she could do, which is to be a top journalist.
Your network news show is going to need some help, Max. If it's going to hold, Beale doesn't do the angry man thing well at all. He's too kvetchy. He's being irascible. We want a prophet, not a curmudgeon. He should do more apocalyptic doom. I think you should take on a couple of writers to write some Jeremiads for him.
I mean, I think one of the most fascinating female journalists on film is Diana Christensen, the character that Faye Dunaway plays in Network, who's a monster.
Got the #1 show in television!
And she's an incredibly compelling monster from her outfits and her charisma and her roving, intense interest. She's someone you want to spend time with every moment she's in a scene in that film.
Son of a bitch! We struck the mother lode!
And it's one of the great portraits of a woman gone mad in the profession, who gives up all of her female self to be a top professional and gives up everything in the process.
Is that portrayal sexist? It's interesting, right? I mean, that movie needs that monster.
White House.
Howard Hunt, please.
Mr. Hunt isn't here just now.
The reason you don't see the real work of journalism on film is that the real work of journalism is often boring. You have to call 30 people to find the one person who gives you the answer that you need. That's harder to dramatize than you know a guy and you meet him in a garage and he tells you the thing and you bring down the president. I mean, you know, that happens too.
Can you tell me what you know? You tell me what you know.
One rare exception is All the President's Men. It's one of the few films that actually shows the work of journalists. There's a great scene in there where you have the two journalists looking at records. The boringest thing a journalist can do, how do you film that? Well, they keep panning back and panning back until you see the reporters as two little figures there still going over it, and they dissolve between these pullbacks so it looks like a lot of time has expired. And so you see them working so hard to get this story.
I mean, the obsessive lengths that journalists go to find out the truth is a favored subject of these films.
Try and understand this. I'm a Republican. I am too. Well, I believe in Richard Nixon.
You often see people who are abandoning their love lives, their children, their families, their personal hygiene, food, the many tools used to dramatize the lengths to which people will go in pursuit of the truth.
Hello. Hello, I'm Carl
Bob
Bernstein.
Woodward.
We'd just like to talk to Mr. Sloan for a couple minutes.
You're the two from the Post, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
This is an honest house.
That's why we'd like to see your husband.
Stories about journalism are often stories about the media, changes in the media and technology and attention. And they tend to be stories about kind of anxiety about the attention of the American media consumer and what they're interested in and whether they're looking in the right place, and the hard-boiled people who are either exploiting their attention or just giving them what they need.
In many films about journalism, the journalist may be a scoundrel, but the public looks terrible. In Ace in the Hole, for example, Billy Wilder, the director, is more concerned with the public reaction to this tragedy, which he paints in very dramatic terms. The public being lusting for information about this man trapped, who will do anything, get a t-shirt just to say they were there, watching what's going on.
Hey, what are you doing? Taking your picture. What for? Gonna put it in the paper.
In Network, the public buys all of this terrible news.
How do you feel?
If the audience didn't go along with everything that Faye Dunaway's character wants to do, she couldn't get away with it. She gets big ratings because the audience is buying into this new kind of journalism.
You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal.
It's certainly interesting to watch a movie that argues that the way in which television distorts our attention will be the end of American civilization in the second year of the Trump presidency. And that movie struck me as fairly prescient when I rewatched it.
The world is a business, Mr. Beale. It has been since man crawled out of the slime.
Journalism is under siege at the moment in that there's, the president agitating about fake news and the question of whether we can really trust the people who are telling stories. On the other hand, I think there's never been a stronger interest in or admiration for the work that journalism can do.
I think journalists are wonderful to watch on film. They're fun to watch, they're enjoyable to watch. The way they get into situations and get out of them is enjoyable. Now, I don't know if I love these films because I'm a journalist myself, or if I love these films just as a moviegoer.
What? Are you telling me it ain't news?
But everybody I talk to usually loves a film that features a journalist because it just is more interesting to have somebody in the film you can identify with who helps you find out what's going on.
That would put you inside the White House.
Who? Can you be specific? How high up?
You'll have to find that out for yourself.